All right, yellow arty peoples. My name is Emmy, but my friends call me Miss Cakes, or The Cakes, or El Cakerino, if you're into that whole, or not into that whole brevity thing. But I am an artist based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and I feel like I'm spastic again. I'm sorry. I am an artist based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and if you're not familiar with my work, I won't hold it against you. But there will be a link down below if you want to check out all the different things that I've been doing. Recently, I've been focusing on a whole lot of portraiture. I'm actually doing an Etsy challenge, which is really fun. I've also tried to do the 100 portraits in 100 days and failed miserably. But what I've been doing right now is essentially just making sure that I take the time to paint. So yeah, let's shut up and paint. So let's go over briefly what I'm going to be using. First and foremost, surface. This is the Da Vinci art panel. I have one here, dual-sided. Hair in my eyeball. This is a dual-sided panel, which is, you might not be sure like why you would need two sides to a panel, but it's actually really cool. One side is super crazy smooth, which for portraiture is fantastic. If you want that nice, super glossy, smooth surface, that is the way to go. The other side though has like just a slight texture. It's not even that much, but it's just a little bit of interest as far as the surface goes. Both of which are fantastic to paint on. And plus there's no prep, you can just literally grab it, go, you're ready to go, rock and roll. I've also painted on one of these things and totally screwed up one side, flipped it over, and then I could just keep going and not have to worry about the terrible painting that I had on the back side of it. Hopefully I don't sell that painting because Lord help that I might have to scrape it off or just gesso over it. Anyway, so that's the surface that I'm painting on. So far all I have done is just toned it because it starts off nice and white. I have toned it with the Lucas acrylics. Right here is burnt sienna. I have a little bit of cadmium red deep mixed in with the burnt sienna, and then I believe Indian yellow. Yes, Indian yellow at the top. So it kind of has a little bit of a gradient, which is super fun. I was just trying to get rid of all of the white. All right, other than toning, I just matched out kind of what I'm doing, which is, you know, obviously the meatball. Insert adorable photo here. He's so cute. I just want to squish him. All right, so these colors right here are the ones that I always typically use. These are the Lucas Curl Studio. Nice and fluid acrylics, super pigmented, really awesome to work with. Those are the colors that I normally always use in portraiture. You will also notice there is no black. I do not ever put black on my palette. The reason why is because when I first started out, you know, you look at someone's face and you're like, oh, there's a shadow. You mix whatever the color of their skin is plus black. Nope, it looks terrible. Shadows have different colors. There's purples, there's blues, there's even greens. You have to look. So that's why I will never ever really have black on my palette. Although I did have black on my palette last time, but I was painting Heather's face very graphically and it had a solid black background, so it kind of worked. But if you were to paint a full portrait in all the different colors and then add like black in the pupils, your eye goes straight there, and it's hard to like get the eye to go around to the rest of the painting without having that black kind of repeated around the face. And for the most part, you don't have black in your face. The eyelids, the folds there, they're usually really dark. The nostril, really dark, but it's like a burnt sienna or like a dark burgundy. So I never really have black on my palette. Besides those, I usually add fun little colors, depending on the portrait that I'm using. So this portrait, he actually happens to be wearing a Yoda hat because he's adorable. So I'm going to be using these really funky greens because I could mix a green with the blue and the yellow. Don't think I'm going to get quite that right color, so I'm going to actually add in a couple different things going on. Yeah, so the top of this hat is like a nice, I don't want to say it's this mint green, but it's almost like this mint mixed with a little bit of yellow. I do also have a cadmium red deep, but it's still not that kind of a magenta-y kind of color. So I'm going to add a couple different pinks in here for like his cheeks, and especially like his little bottom lip where you can see like the deep red purples kind of going on. All right, so I think other than that, brushes, can't forget brushes. I'm not finger painting. All right, so I am a huge fan of the Black Swan brushes. They are long handle and the bristles themselves are super soft. They have a nice kind of snap to them, but I'm a huge fan of the soft bristles because they kind of tend to blend really well, but I also I don't want to say I don't like brush strokes, I guess. It's like the bristles. When you can see the little individual bristle marks, I'm not a huge fan of that. I like chunks of color, and these do a really good job. Besides that, I've actually fallen deeply in love with this paintbrush. Katie, it's all your fault. This paintbrush right here. This is the 1/2 inch flat Mimic. Aren't these for watercolor?
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. All right, so this is not squirrel, but it's like synthetic squirrel? Mm-hmm. It's robot squirrel hair. I'm super in love with this paintbrush though. Not only is it nice and soft, it also has a longer bristle and it has that nice snap to it that I really like. But the shape of it, that nice flat shape, it really allows me to kind of carve out features when I'm painting. And this paintbrush has been my super go-to. So other than that, I think that's all of the things I need other than my brain to kind of catch up with my mouth. And then that should be everything, right? The one thing with the black. If I want to make a black, I take ultramarine and burnt sienna. Mix these two, a little bit more blue than a little bit of burnt sienna, and you get something that is not actually that pure black, but it appears amongst all these other colors like a solid black. So you'll see me kind of go into the eyes and paint that in there, and that's what the mixture is. So yeah, I think that's everything. I'll just shut up and paint now. All right, so even though he obviously has green in his hat, I think I'm gonna also put the green in his face as well to kind of keep it consistent and like not just like a weird green spot. One thing though, I have figured out with using these butcher trays. If my acrylic paints dry on there and I start trying to mix colors on top of it, because the paint will peel off the tray. Yeah. Well, I'll get chunks of paint in my mixes, and it's not.
If you're not used to them, yeah.
Not my jam. So, Soho wipes. I'm gonna take this dry stuff off of here. Okay, that is what, an hour into it. So I had to definitely cover up that orange kind of burnt sienna background, just because as I started mixing the flesh tones for his face and his forehead, like this was a lot more yellow, and I knew it was yellow because I could see it on my palette, but once I applied it here, it looked way washed out just because of the contrast between that the color that I mixed and that burnt sienna. I mean, you can, if I were to like cover everything up, you would still see it here. But in relation to this gray now, it kind of looks a lot more accurate as far as the color that I was looking to mix. And that's just what happens when you put two colors next to each other. They're going to play with each other, and they're going to change almost the way that they look. That's why palettes are either white or gray, or you can also have the brown of the wood, just like a neutral color. So that's why I kind of wanted to push the background into a neutral kind of tone, and then still have that kind of difference as far as the foreground here. I don't know how much of this I'm going to keep, because I feel like it kind of takes away from the focus being here, but that's something I can play with later. I know the colors that I mixed, and I could always just make it still nice and choppy like that. And keep the painterly look, but just kind of cover up that yellow. But I think before I do that, I'm going to finish up the figure, and then push the values of the shadows a little bit more. And then, because the more things are in the foreground, the more you want them to be detailed. And then the things in the background, you want them to be kind of blurry and out of view. But I want the focus on his face, so that's where I want to put all my detail. All the rest of this can be pretty painterly and kind of suggestive. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm not going to really do too much detail of, like, you know, the carpet and the blues and everything like that. Maybe I will incorporate a little bit of it. I don't know. We'll see. But for right now, this is a pretty good start. I'm okay with this for like an hour into it. I made this. His face is so round. So round. But yeah. So I'm going to probably, now that I've kind of washed out that burnt sienna color, I'm going to start mixing up his skin tones and start laying them down. I'm going to paint as alla prima as possible, but you'll see me kind of mix up colors, and then I'll place it all the way around his face and everywhere where I kind of see that kind of color, and then it sort of all comes together at the end, and then I might even look at it and going, ooh, that's way too pink, and then do another glaze of yellow, or pop little bits of yellow here and there just to kind of balance out his skin tone. But that's about how I work with the face and generally painting. But I made this. Haha. Okay, so are we just gonna go straight back into it?
You want to?
Sure. Okay, check in numero 2. Getting the face there. It's slowly becoming less of an orange blob with a green hat. But it's still demonic, baby. So, I am going to have to actually paint in his eyes. I'm working on his clothing now, and because I realized I haven't really touched that. And then I have to get the rest of the skin tone in his arms and hands, and then the rest of like his kind of like T-zone in his mouth. And then I think I might go in and touch up a little bit with the hat. And I started pulling the green down into bits of his face to where it kind of like, because you know the green will reflect into the skin tone of his face. And I think I'm on the right track. I'm thinking this gray background. I don't know how I feel about it. We'll see though. I am definitely still needing to keep going. This is not something that is going to be done in 2 hours, but if I were somebody who could only take 2 hours to paint, this would be a great start. Maybe you take another 2 hours tomorrow and finish it. 2 days, 4 hours to finish one painting is not that bad. And in order to just keep yourself going and being creative, even if it's just little chunks of time here and there, like throughout the day, if I need to sketch in the morning while my stepson is doing virtual school, and then we have lunch, and then we take care of his PE class or whatever specials he has, then I get to paint in the afternoon. You can break it up and do whatever you need to do, but make sure you find that time to shut up and paint. And I think now I'm gonna go back to shutting up and painting some more. So, hour number 3.
I wasn't ready. Okay.
Hour number 3.
Go.
Hey! I present to you a mostly finished little baby Jerry. It's not 100%. That is a whole lot of baby to paint. Not that that's like a overly large baby. Okay, it is an overly large baby. He's a meatball. But that's a whole lot of different things happening in this photo. But, you know, even for 3 hours, I'm really happy with what I've accomplished. And so I hope I've inspired you all to pick up some art supplies and tell your family no and stop bugging you. And if you want to walk the dog, you go walk the dog. If you want to wash the dishes, go wash the dishes. But it is your time to paint. So thank you all very much for watching all the way through to the end. If you guys have some photos you'd like to see me paint next, maybe you guys can send me a direct message on Instagram, which is @misscakes.art. Side note, please don't send me nudes. Ain't nobody need that. Ain't nobody need that. I will block you. This is a family channel. Thank you very much. But I would be super happy to paint the people that are watching these videos. And if you have something that you've created, please feel free to tag me in it. I would love to see what you're doing. So that is it for me. I'm going to probably take this home and actually go finish it because I have a little bit more time today. But I think that's all the time we have today here in the studio. I've had a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And thank you so much for watching. Adios.